1.
Good evening. The time is 6:30 p.m. I'm Chairman Timothy Toth. I'd like to call the Select Board Business Meeting to order this 28th day of November, 2022. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I heard it too. Thank you for that. Before we begin, I'd like to state for the record, not only are we being streamed live on TCTV, cable channel 8, and on our YouTube web platform, but this evening's recording will be available for later viewing on the YouTube channel. We have the following board members, staff, and expected guests. We do indeed have a quorum. Mr. Bennett, Ms. Griffis, Mr. Curry, and myself, and select board member Richard is absent tonight. We have a jam-packed schedule, even though it doesn't look that big, but we have a lot of items to talk about. As always, the agenda for this evening has been set no later than 48 hours out by law, publicly available at the official source for town information, templetonma.gov. Although I have discretion as chairperson to add or remove from the agenda, it has been set to allow for time, personnel resources, and public awareness. I reserve the right to move agenda items around to best fit our business and our guests. Thank you. And I do anticipate moving a couple items. If it's your first meeting, attending a select board meeting or any other public meeting within the community, welcome. We're certainly glad that you've been able to join us. Be aware, we do our best to address all agenda items adequately, all public concerns with due concern, and all comments with dignity and patience. Please do your best to show the same respects. Few comments for the guests we have joining us remotely this evening, and later on it will be the town attorney joining us for one of the topic items. And the Zoom rules of the road, use the video whenever possible, although if you're waiting, it's better to have video off. Use the mute feature when you're not speaking, although TCTV can place any and all on mute. It's easier to control your own buttons. If you wish to speak, raise your hand, use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or politely break in if you're accessing only by phone. If you wish to see material shared on the screen, please request that. We will help everyone stay synchronized to help be helpful in the viewing for the public. Only the chair and TCTV are able to share on the screens. Without that, we will proceed into the meeting itself.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice.
I move to approve the minutes of December 14th, 22 as presented.
Second.
I do have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from our 12-14 meeting. Any discussions? Second call, any discussions? Hearing none, I will bring that to a vote. Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Ms. Griffis.
Yes.
Mr. Curry.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you, team. And we have no executive session minutes, so we can skip beyond that. Citizen input. I know we have folks here for the discussion that will be coming up on the sewer easement proposal, the Gardner Conservation regarding the sludge landfill. We do have some folks here for the extended food pantry license. And we'll have Mr. Zosik presenting on the actions for 10 Pleasant Street and the demolition of that structure. Anybody else here for another purpose that I don't know why you're here? Okay. And when it comes time to speak, if you would wish to speak, I would ask you come forward to our hot seat so the mic can pick up what's being said. We do have mics around the room, but the front one is much, much better. Okay. Hearing no citizen input at this point, we will go on to 5, new business. We have no new employees.
Just on that, Mr. Chair, gentleman, I brought forward to you last meeting, withdrew his name. You want to pursue the extra license requirements, so that.
Oh.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Zostik, and I'm sorry to hear that. That was William.
William Marion.
Okay, item 5B, appointments. We have in your packet, we have an interest form for our advisory committee. Mr. Rivard, would you like to take the hot seat, please? Give you a minute, just briefly tell us what's up.
Well,
Beyond the fact you stepped out for a
Welcome
cup of coffee and you're coming back.
good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You all know me already, I believe. My name is Matthew Rivard. I am formerly the advisory committee chairman from May to November of 2021. And I am asking for reappointment to that same board. In all honesty, I have just at this point, I have the ability to do so, and I've been keeping an eye on things, and I just feel at this point that I want to have my voice heard again. And where we've been there before, I feel it was a good place to return again. So I'm more than happy to ask and answer any questions you may have for me, and go from there.
Outstanding. And
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice,
I move to appoint Matt Rivard to the advisory committee to a term expiring at the 2023 annual town meeting.
second. I have a motion for an appointment with a second. Any discussions, team?
Happy to have him back.
It'll be nice to see a full boat again on that committee. This
Yeah.
is awesome. Second call, any discussions? Hearing none, we will bring this to a vote. Mr. Bennett? Yes. Ms. Griffis?
Yes.
Mr. Curry?
Yes,
I vote yes as well.
welcome back.
Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming back.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much.
Glad to have you back on the team.
It's a good group.
It is. It's a hard-working group.
Yeah.
And you ready to roll your sleeves up? Because we're about to jump in hard and heavy as we open up our budgeting season.
Bring it.
That's a great transition to item 5C with the presentation regarding the capital recommendations.
Looks like Noel's gonna join me. Holly is good.
Holly too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Oh,
Good evening.
Mike Curry, part of your board, but I was your designee for the capital planning, the capital improvements committee. And I'm here to give you your fiscal 24 report and recommendations. I'll also I'll call the capital planning capital improvements committee to order so we can at least do one piece of business. We have to make sure that the chair can approve minutes. So I am designating per our bylaws, I'm designating the ex officio member as a voting member, as I do not have a quorum otherwise. So
okay.
with the three of us, we'll be able to at the conclusion, make a motion that the chair will be able to approve the final set of minutes that Justice will have for us probably within a couple of days. Good to go?
Outstanding.
You ready? All right, so in front of you, each of you have a packet. Part of what's in the packet is your report, your spreadsheet with all of the math, our initiation memo, and then I gave you a copy of the bylaws as it pertains to the Capital Improvements Committee, just for FYI. I will not read the whole report. You can do that at your leisure for, reasons. We made certain recommendations otherwise, so I want to give you basically the top level view of what we've done. So we kicked off in October, our first meeting. We arranged ourselves. I was the chairman. Tom Smith was the vice chairman. Noel Francis was the advisory committee member. Justice Graves was a member at large. I'm sorry, Tom Smith was the vice chairman and the first member at large, and then Justice Graves, also the clerk, was a member at large. Cheryl Richardson, as always, as the treasurer collector, and then Holly Young is the assistant town administrator and designee and ex officio member. The report is arranged in a little bit different from last year. Now, the top sheet serves as the cover sheet, and then the report is the following pages. So you got kind of like a table of contents at the bottom. So I won't bore you with the process. You know that we meet, we organize, we hear from the department heads, then we meet for a couple of meetings. It's interesting to note in years past, the Capital Improvements Committee met maybe once or twice. We met a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. The last couple of times we met, that's deliberation and trying to carve out that pie, the pie being our budget. So that was our process. We met with the department heads, then we deliberated, came up with a direction. We then vote on that direction, and I prepare the final report. Any questions about the process?
None. Having sat in your position last year, I'm fully aware of how this process plays out.
Excellent.
And I think we had a matching number of meetings as well.
So department narratives. We met with town administrator, the regional school district, the sewer department, police department, fire department, public works, community services, specifically recreation, and TCTV. As we had in the past, we did not hear from community preservation, the library, board of health, town clerk, and emergency management. That's not to say that they missed an appointment or otherwise. They just didn't have anything that they were bringing to Capitol this year. Okay, town administrator. You probably already heard him talk about this, but there was a survey about town common. Looking for some capital money to do some town common improvements. Narragansett Regional School District, Dr. Casavant and Anne Marie came in and kind of gave us the heads up. He was very happy to come and talk with us. His capital needs right now, as they may pertain to the town, is the high school and middle school roof. That's they're already patching it. Gave us a heads up that they were going to need to replace that. And they really need to overhaul their varsity playing field. They need it to be competitive. They really need to be able to give these kids a proper playing field. And it's going to take, I think it was about $400,000 to $500,000 to do that. Again, all of the math, if you want to follow along with how it fits in, is in that spreadsheet that you have. And we can make the actual Excel document available as well. Sewer department, Mr. Aldrich came in and chiefly talked about the Crotty Ave pump station. That's a project that's got to be coming up, and that's a $1.5 million project. There are options for that, and I will talk about some of our recommendations. So big numbers like 1.5 million. Yeah, the taxpayer should be wary of that, but we're also taking a look at grants and other sources of funding. That was part of our process. Police department, aside from a vehicle that we believe through the town administrator can take care of his needs for a vehicle this year, police department only had 2 items. Let's see, that it's the HVAC system. And there was another one. Oh, actually, it could have been just the other vehicle. So his primary one was the HVAC system for his station, and really needed matching funds. He had $75,000 available for it, and he needed matching funds to bring him to $150,000 for that. Fire department came with a very large list. I was not there for that meeting, watched it remotely, but he sat with the committee for well over an hour and talked through some of his needs. His priorities were replacing some of his vehicles that he's had in the department since the 80s. So well over 30 years. So it's about time. He basically said it's about time we get replacements for these tankers and forestry vehicles. Public Works, very similar, had a lot of needs there, a lot of critical pieces of equipment that he just cannot do without. Had some other things in there as well. He was kind of taking on from a buildings and grounds perspectives, town hall upgrades, senior center kitchen. Also, it wasn't under COA. Bob actually came from a buildings and grounds perspective and spoke on their behalf. So you'll take a look at his list of requirements. Had some paving projects in there as well. If you've been around town, you've certainly driven in this parking lot. Basically, Bob was talking about, we got to catch up on our paving. And as he pointed out to me in the middle of a meeting, thank you for the text, Bob, chapter 90 does not cover parking lots. Finally, with community services, Jackie spoke on behalf of rec for the water cannon, or it's the, well, I say water cannon there. I think there was a better way to characterize it. It's basically irrigation needs for Gilman Waite. Low dollar, their priority, but low dollar item. I think it was only $12,000 for that. Recreation did come back on our last meeting and had some kind of late breaking requests, or really not even a request, but a heads up about the basketball courts and the tennis courts at Gilman Waite. Candace still had to talk with community preservation and see what their inputs could be, but she just wanted to give us a heads up that she's looking anywhere from $25,000 to $120,000 to renovate those surfaces and expand their use as well. Kind of the tennis court would be dual tennis and pickleball, whatever pickleball is. I don't know
The
what
latest trend.
it is.
Great. Been watching it.
So I included Council on Aging under community services. As I had said, DPW Buildings and Grounds spoke on their behalf, but I've talked with Gail, I see her, about we're way overdue for getting that kitchen to where it needs to be. The committee did discuss trying to come to an agreement with the Friends of Templeton Elders. However, it exists right now to be able to, our recommendation is that we work with Templeton Elders to figure out what they can contribute to that effort. But I just wanted to make sure that I captured that Council on Aging need, even though they didn't come in and talk specifically with the committee. And then TCTV, Steve's always got some stuff that he needs. He's kind of, in listening to his presentation, he always does a great job of trying to maintain his IT infrastructure. He doesn't know what might occur. He's got some issues with Gardner cable. I forget what the piece of equipment is that's obsolete that he has to provide, or he has to worry about how he interacts with these transformers or otherwise. I probably should have taken the note for whatever kind of pieces of equipment, but let me tell you, he's got it covered and he's under enterprise. So we would have said yes anyway. All right. So that was what was briefed to us. We then had to tell you about the non-tax impacting, and we had no issue with those. So as you go down through the list of things that had funding sources, we basically have rubber stamped that recommendation. Within the non-tax impacting request, you're going to see a couple of things that are going to make you scratch your head. That's because we offered solutions for a way to fund our requirements that would not be tax impacting. So you'll see them occur on that table, but you'll also see them as a potential in the future impact on taxes and the citizen. Any questions so far? All right, let's go on to the real good stuff, the tax impacting requests. So we had 26, we had 31 total, but 26 that would have the potential to impact the taxpayer. We reviewed these 26 capital requests, and in the back of our mind, we knew that we were going to make some recommendations for ARPA. We basically, at this point, took a budget of $300,000 from free cash that we understood to be the calculation. really didn't seem like it was enough for how we were trying to massage what was going to be ARPA, what was going to be free cash. So we are recommending to go into the capital stabilization account, or otherwise known as CapEx, and take 13%, about 13% or 28,000 from a balance of 215,000. So really not a whole lot. And that's exactly what that account is for. So we assumed for those 26 requirements, we assumed a $328,000 budget limit. So if the town through the budget process agrees with that, we would then make the following recommendation, prioritize recommendations for this year's capital purchases. Funding tanker 1 for the fire department. It was our top recommendation and also the fire department's top recommendation. We would recommend a $93,000 5-year lease to loan. I know that we're not a fan of doing one-time money for leases, but we felt that $93,000, if it was the only lease that we were going to recommend, we felt that that could be taken out of other enterprise funds. We have other enterprise funds, other corporations within town that may be able to help us with that. Future capital budgets. So a burden to the capital budget for next year, or work with the town administrator to work $93,000 into the overall operating budget for the next 4 years. So we would, capital free cash would fund the first year, and then the following 4 would come out of operating budget. And I did confirm with the town administrator that 2 items of equipment are actually coming off of a lease or coming off the operating budget this year. So it would be like 2 ships passing in the night.
Fiscal year 24.
Fiscal year 24. So that's the tanker. The rest would be just taken right out of the free cash balance. Building and ground would get their F550 swap loader. DPW, so that was 163,000 for the F550. The software that Bob needs, and did a really good job of describing through how he would do job orders, vehicle repairs,
roads,
management.
storm
that-
drains.
Exactly. So that's 37,000. Fully fund the water reel device for irrigation for Gilman Waite in the amount of 11.1 thousand. Building and ground, the Kawasaki zero turn motor for 14,000. Building and grounds electric panel upgrades for town hall, which are way overdue. And so that is a total free cash plus CapEx budget of $327,126.25. I spoke about ARPA. So if you go to page 8, you're going to see a table. There is approximately $1.8 million remaining in our ARPA funding. We must obligate that. Is it obligate or have it actually executed by 27?
Executed by 20.
Okay, it must be executed, not just obligated, waiting for long lead item or otherwise. It has to be executed by 2027. So of that 1.8 million, it was not unanimous within the committee about how to fund we wanted to fund everything, but we just had differences of opinion on how to get to that point and the total amount that we would recommend of ARPA funds. So we did have an understanding at the end that we would ask for about 1.3 of that 1.8 million to take care of a large amount of capital expenses or requirements that we have for this year. So if you look at the table, there's the 7-ton 6-wheel plow, forestry 3 tanker, the rest of the HVAC money for the police station. Those are the first 3 priorities that we made, and then all the way down through 9 other priorities.
Mhm.
Forestry 2 truck, skid steer loader, kitchen upgrades over at the senior center. We recommended all 4 paving projects be covered under the ARPA money, and that's about 176,000 total. Probably be smart to to go in for one contract to get all four accomplished. So there'd be $176,000 worth of paving at Templeton Center Fire, Baldwinville Fire, Town Hall, and the DPW yard. Lastly, last two things for ARPA is the new fire station professional study. And finally, not because we don't love it, the town common, but just from a life safety and health. And our overall charge is to make sure that this is the right thing for the community and what it needs. We did recommend funding upgrades to town common in the amount of about $30,000. So that's total recommended $1,299,238. The unique thing about these tables and the prioritization, if you decide that that is too much to come out of the ARPA funds, you can put a check, you can put a cut line. Our recommendation is prioritized, but you could put a cut line at priority 6, or you could pick and choose along the way. We just wanted to be able to give you a recommendation for priority.
Like, if I may, usually going through the capital, of course, you always think the percentage above the quote price, which when I started was about 5.5%.
Okay.
And as you know, like last year, when we got the loader, it was up to 8%.
All right.
So as Cochran and Adam, I recommend that we go 10%.
Above quotes. Yep.
Because on all the stuff that I'm dealing with, the quotes are only good 30 days, nobody's doing a long-term quote anymore.
Okay.
The escalation and the steel rule and all that stuff.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
So I just take that into consideration for the total amount for these items. If you need to kind of, if that's what, that's something that the Capital Improvement Committee can take into advisement next year as well, to try and build those in there. Give it a scenario, like scenario 1, here's the quotes. Scenario 2, this is, with the fudge factor.
Yeah, usually the town administrator did all that.
Yep.
Anything that was approved. Capital, the order date, like my stuff, we probably talking close to 2 years. Receiving.
Yeah, everything's going to be long lead. I think that's another reason why we all felt in the Capital Improvement Committee that now's the time to act. We've had this money for a little bit. Let's start executing it so we can actually get it and not, I know that the bridge might, it says it in the report, there's bridge studies and otherwise, but for some of these items that we've been waiting 30+ years for, we recommended, let's go deep. Let's do a deep cut on the ARPA money. Okay. Final section on our recommendation was what we were unable to basically find funding sources. We knew where the possibility existed, but we couldn't come up with a scenario to make a recommendation at this time. So the first deferment that we had was for Forestry Argo. That's the brand name for the forestry vehicle for fire. We just recommend deferring it into the next year. It's only $75,000. And it was priority number 6 for the fire chief. Engineering for Hamlet Mill Bridge, it's a possibility for grants for that and the drainage work on North Main. Roof of the high school and middle school, we'll take a look at the green repair program, take a look and see what could be done between a collaborative between Phillipson and Templeton. Varsity field, Dr. Kazvian talked about, we understand that they've got E&D. He may have some remaining ESSER funds, unlikely, but it's still some sources of funding that he may actually have. Again, we didn't make a recommendation on it. We just basically wanted to put it on the radar screen of everybody. Crotty Ave Pump Station, $1.5 million. We explore different kind of USDA loans like we did with the water tower and Pleasant Street. And then finally, it was just late in the game, and we know that community preservation didn't have a cut at it. We just basically recommended deferral for the tennis court and basketball courts at this time. But that represented about $4.8 million of need that the community had. Last page of the report and coming up to the conclusion of our total report. We're required by bylaw to give you a 5-year capital projection. The proof is really in that spreadsheet. It takes us out to like 2050. We do the 5-year, but that spreadsheet identifies what are the life cycle costs. If we have a truck that's only going to last 10 years, how do we figure that in? How, is that going to occur next year or the year after? What is the near term or the 5-term projection? So for 2024, it was projected at a million once we got a lot of late breaking requirements. You see 2025, 2.7. That's some of that burden that the committee felt that we needed to build in for some of those big ticket items that we talked about, the roof, the pump station. And those are now appear. They didn't appear before in the capital plan, but now they do. 2027, you see it to start to taper off. Always makes us feel better that it's even though it tapers off, that's because the only thing that's supporting that is the data that we know. So if a truck only lasts for a certain amount of time, and we know that the procurement cost is $75,000, 5 years from now, it could be $100,000, or they may not even make that piece of equipment anymore. That's the data that supports that number dropping off, is because that's the only data that we have. Once something breaks, like the forestry vehicle that is completely inop now, that is unforeseeable from a committee perspective. So don't be fooled that it drops off. Just understand that at least there'll be some wiggle room with some of the things that kind of drop in our lap from a fiscal perspective. Capital investment, those numbers, if you compare it to last year and previous years, some of them were a little bit cookie cutterish. Those numbers are higher, and they reflect a better capital investment from a 5-year ranging out to a 20-year average. So that gives you a better idea of our capital investment in the long term. And that's the end of my report. Again, you've got the proof is in the details for how we actually started to figure out how to get everything that the town needed. What questions do you have at this time?
Question is probably more for the administrator, but the 92,500, I think it is, that is the 5-year lease for a fire engine. Is that the one that is coming off in 24?
The fire engine, I believe, was a 6-year, is the 5-year for the ambulance. They're both falling off in fiscal year 24. So that's 92.5, I believe, off the top of my head, in the budget for the fire engine. And then the ambulance, 50,000, give or take.
56, I think.
So around that, off the top of my head. So those will both fall off come fiscal year, at the end of fiscal year of 24.
So my question for the committee would be, I look at the spreadsheet, but when I look at the bylaw about a 5-year plan, I would look at the fire department, for example, just got a new ambulance, relatively new. They have a second one. Is that on his list to say, like in 2 years, I want to get rid of that? I don't.
No, but the life cycle of it is, that's what our plan incorporates, but not the will of the department head. The feedback that they get, we got a lot of, I need this year. And we did get a couple of, I'd rather have it this year, but I know you're not going to be able to give it to me until 25 or 26. So I felt that we did not get that kind of data, which then we can program into the spreadsheet, and therefore we get a better table.
Right. So my thinking on that is, and I'll just go to the DPW. You buy a 550 Ford. I could buy it and maybe run it for 10, 15 years. But if the town runs it,
Much
we'll
less.
buy it this year, and then in 2 years or 3 years, we'll trade it in so we can get something for it and reduce our maintenance costs on that. And that way you can plan somewhat how much it's, you know, we're gonna have turnover in equipment and estimate the expense of that.
Yeah.
So, and just.
I think we were more data driven rather than reality driven, because that's
So
what you're talking
in
about.
2019, the annual town meeting, DPW town meeting appropriated money to buy a F-550 dump. It was 67,500, so that's 68 grand, and I think you just said something about 162,000.
Right?
So
With the tax.
that's, just so people out there get an idea of, that's the crazy numbers that pickup trucks are going for these, well, everything.
Yeah.
Mm,
The other point I would make is the deferral for
The Argo.
the engineering for Hamlet
Oh.
Mill Bridge and the North Main Street drainage work. Is that the Gilligan's Island little thing?
Yeah.
yeah.
Just for another example, and I believe the board, I sent the email to them, the rotary that is planned out here that's on the tip list. Yeah, let's see. I've been on the MPO for the board since 19. Yeah, that's right around when it got on the tip list, but it went up over $800,000. The increase.
Wow.
cost,
Talking
and-
about
and
like
we
the dangers
voted
of
on that
deferrals.
because
Yep.
It's scheduled for 24.
Right.
Yeah, and so it just went up over 800 grand. So I guess my question would be, it's deferred. How long do we plan on, did the committee discuss how long they plan on deferring that? Would they look at that next year or? Because,
I don't, I mean, if you know the answer, I would say, no, we did not discuss that. We were, you know, if you talk about eggs in a basket, we put all of the eggs in the basket for finding grant money to do that.
Yeah, we will, I thought they had them about Gilligan's Island, so say. And we're hoping once we get a grant writer that we're able to get that grant. for that.
because again, that stuff addresses roads and infrastructure. And that's a service to everyone, because everyone drives on the road. You can have brand new equipment, but if the roads are junk or they're flooded or they're iced, you're gonna destroy the
Yeah.
equipment and you're not gonna be able to travel, so.
Well, so for the tax impacting, for the 6 things that we offered for the low amount of free cash. I mean, you can puzzle piece together the ARPA money. You could swap those out if they truly are, they need to be done and you can't find grant money. You know, Noel made the point of asking the state or getting grant money. If you get it for this, great, then swap something else out. If we're not going to spend, you know, if we go to our congressional delegation and say, our senior center needs this kitchen now, and we want it within the next appropriation year. Gail, do you see those checks up there? It would be like Ann showing up with like one of those checks.
Mm.
So if Ann says, I can get you that money, the senior centers are all, you know, that's the big rage coming out of COVID. We then take that 200 that we had on our ARPA list out, and that potentially might fund one of those studies or some of the drainage work. So we made the ARPA recommendations based on the impact, really the feedback that we were getting, the dialogue that we had with the department heads. However, you know, the collective people that decide, it's not town meeting that decides what ARPA money is spent. It's the Board of Selectmen in conjunction with the town administrator. So that was the recommendation that we made. That's all I had.
And that's why I look at the dollars and the equipment forecasting. So we can get, because it seems like, and this is just my observation, the bigger the pile of money, departments come with no rhyme or reason. It's just, well, I'm gonna get the big thing now because they got a big pile of money.
I know.
And it's not an organized plan of, I want to get this truck, this, and this year. And once I get this thing this year, next year, this is what I'm coming for. It's my priority thing. And that way the committee, once they get appointed after annual town meeting and you meet, you know, you'll have a heads up on what a department is most likely coming for. And then you can start doing the money add up. So when the free cash and all the different things,
Yeah.
funding sources can be looked at. It should,
For that perspective, we had, if you took off like the pump station and the roof, those were kind of like, weighing the scale down. We had 300 of the roughly 3.4 million requested by department heads. We were able to make recommendations, funded recommendations, not like, well, we don't know where you're going to get the money. We were able to make recommendations for $1.8 million worth of stuff. That's good, but it's not like you're saying, some of those higher dollar tag ones, like the engineering study and the drainage work. We didn't, other than grants, we didn't know how to get there without pushing the ARPA money towards.
Excuse-
Just so you know that, when I was at the Capitol Board, we did discuss. When we got the document saying is if you would lose a, so use a new loader, for example, 5 years, trade in, get high value. And a new machine was less setting. So that wasn't discussion.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but the computer package, the program that you're getting will keep track of all the vehicles in different fleets and when they need to be replaced. Was that part of?
We have that now. I have a spreadsheet when it's purchased and the life of the vehicle for the department when it should be replaced.
Yeah, and that's got to go to capital. Is that part of your purview for the 5-year plan?
Yes, but he doesn't give us his, whether it's the software you're talking about or how.
Or
he
the
tracks it.
list.
We already know what he has and we've already, that's already plugged into our sheet. So
Okay.
yes, the answer is yes. Did you have another question, Terry?
No.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have a comment and I don't want to speak out of line or step on the fire chief's toes, but your first tax impacting request for the fire department tanker,
Yes.
I believe when I checked with my personal homeowner's insurance, the town is rated an ISO, the Insurance Services Organization 6/6X, which means we have a tanker credit. Now, asking them when an ISO number changes, 1 the best, 9 the worst, you basically don't have fire protection with a 9. We're not in a bad position for a community of our size. 25 years ago, I could tell you a jump in one full number was $327 on your homeowner's insurance or your fire insurance.
Okay.
Today, thanks to the wonders of modern technology, they really can't pin it down because there's a whole bunch of pieces and factors to plug in.
Yep.
So the indirect cost by not funding this is ultimately a potential on increases on other insurance.
Oh, I understand
So
what you're saying.
so there's a tax increase, but then there's something else. There's a trade-off in there. And again, not to step on anybody's toes, but so
Yeah.
people understand that this was vetted, thought through. And it
Very much
actually,
so. If I could actually add one more thing about tanker one. So Chief Dickey came to us originally with a $600,000 piece of equipment that, much like the studies that we were just talking about for Bob's requests.
Mhm.
We were looking at each other saying, I don't know, that one's gonna be tough. That's the kind of thing that you have to ask the taxpayer to go more out of pocket on. Because Tom is the chief of, the chief of Winchendon's fire department. He was able to try and work with him to say, what is the real requirement? He was able to bring that requirement down for a piece of equipment that would do the same job. So he had it was a 3,000 gallon tanker. He came back with a 2,000 gallon tanker that was 4-wheel drive and would be multi-purpose. So that was a savings. Wow, get math in public, right? So it was 600,000. He came back and said, I only need 325,000. At that point, we then said, this is something that we felt comfortable going to you and the town administrator to say, we think a lease for this piece of equipment is the right way to go. And the fire department would be happy with it.
excellent. I just wanted to highlight for the folks watching that maybe don't understand the process. There is a series of considerations, discussions, trade-offs, and what is the best impact.
Yep, it was tough. Because you want to buy everything. I mean, that was our contention. We wanted to buy everything. We just had a limited amount.
We were in the same boat last year.
Yep.
It's like, I wish I could have just said, sure, fund it all, but we know that wasn't gonna happen.
But 1 point, what did I say? 1.3
3 with the ARPA.
1.8 million.
1.8 million.
We get all that stuff and Adam still has a little chunk of change to take care of some other things. I think we're doing all right. And it was very similar ARPA to the last year's to when you were on it, Tim. And in terms of what kind of balance we should be maintaining. I think it was around 500 to 600,000, what you made a recommendation on.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
No, it's a very comprehensive report. Thank you and your
Mhm.
team for all the work.
Of course.
You have one, Tim, you have one.
Yeah.
When something does go off of lease, you're just gonna lease it for 4 or 5 years, and do you have to buy it after that?
No, it's lease to own.
Lease to own?
Yeah, normally they're leased to own, like, not to speak out of turn, not having read the contracts, but my prior experience on municipal leases, the final payment is $1 just to make the transition and be able to title it and register it and remove the lien holder.
And we asked the department heads that had rolling stock very quickly, and they turned around lease agreements with whatever interest rates were out there right now. Some of them were not great, some of them were a little bit better, but interest rates are not great right now.
One of the other challenges with any vehicle today is lead time and build time. They're absolutely
killing
off
us,
the wall.
yep.
It's killing everybody.
All right, if there are no other questions, we just have one piece of housekeeping to do as the Capital Improvements Committee, and then we will get off the stage. All right, I think we already are in session.
Yes.
Yep.
I would make a motion for the chair to approve and sign the last meeting minutes when they're available.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Again, ex officio helping us out with our quorum issue per the bylaw. For the motion for the chair to sign the final set of meeting minutes, how do you vote, Holly? How do you vote, Noel?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. All right, and I would make a motion that the Capital Improvements Committee adjourn.
I move to the Capital Improvements Committee to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion in a second. If you want to adjourn, I'll say aye. Aye. None opposed. All set.
Thank
You're
you.
very
Thank you.
great. Great.
Thanks. Thank you, Noel, for being here.
Hello, Tom, you with us?
Hello. Yes, I am. Happy
Greetings.
holidays, everybody.
Hi, Tom.
Same to you, Tom. So coming up next. Item 5D, a discussion, possible action, a sewer easement for proposed subdivision. Is anybody here representing the proposed easement? I'm not talking abutters. I'm talking, do we have legal or the firm representing? Okay,
My name is William Metasewicz and I live on Brooks Road and I've been here all my life. With me is my daughter Rena that does my paperwork and slowly becoming my eyes and ears. And representing me is Paul from Graz Engineering, and he's gonna make recommendations for what we want to do. Thank you.
Good evening.
good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Paul Grasowitz, Graz Engineering, Bill's engineer. Bill stated the purpose of the request for an easement. Would like to investigate the feasibility and if feasible, ultimately a petition for the easement. Bill's property lies directly behind the DPW parcel. I believe it's 381 Baldwinville Road. And in order to facilitate his subdivision, groundwater is very high out there. And the feasibility of doing on-site septics is it's not pretty. if any of you have driven around that area, you'll see some very high mounds in some front yards there because of the high groundwater. So we would like to put in a low pressure sewer force main. It would run along the southerly boundary of the DPW lot, and we drew it as a 20-foot wide easement, which would give you adequate room to do maintenance, install it and do maintenance. There would have to be a wetlands crossing, one on our property, possibly, and definitely another one on the DPW parcel. So would have to go through conservation for that. The sewer would then tie into Baldwinville Road, has a sewer manhole relatively near where we are coming out to the right of way. So this sewer would service approximately 24, optimistically 24 houses. It would be privately owned and privately maintained. So there would have to be some type of homeowners agreement for that. Each of the lots would have their own little a small grinder pump station, if you will, and they pump into a common force main. It's just 2 inches in diameter, and then it would go through the easement out to the Baldwinville Road into the sewer there. I brought some extra plans if anyone would like to have a look at it, or maybe you've already seen it.
Mike, is that? Is it up on the screen?
Yeah, that's it right there. It's about 1,000 feet long. Going through the DPW parcel there. There's a house on the south part of the DPW parcel. It's parcel number 53, a small lot. And we would be going just to the south of that. So east of that point would be following the boundary of the DPW lot. And then when we get to that portion, as we get to the closer to that house, we have to cross the wetlands, and we'll be going on the south side of that house lot there. So we want to find out what the selectmen think about this, and how to proceed from here.
You let Tom.
Yeah, I'm gonna have our town attorney chime in on this as well.
Okay, you ready for me, Tim?
We are, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So Tom Harrington, Town Council, Office of Miaris and Harrington. So what you're looking at, if the board is interested in doing this, and so I guess to set the stage, it's my understanding that the select board has the care, custody, and control of this parcel, which means it is, in the first instance, your decision whether or not you want to do this. If you are inclined to do this, I see it as a 4-step process. The first step is we would need to get the value of the easement appraised. We could have if the assessors are willing, we could have the assessors property for us. That value is equal to or less than $35,000. You could then proceed to negotiate a sale with the landowner. If it's more than $35,000, we're going to have to go through an RFP process. So you would have to advertise the easement, and then have a bid opening and award, if you chose to award, to the highest bidder. But let's assume, without knowing anything, that it's going to be equal to or less than $35,000. So we get our appraisal from the assessors. it would then be on the select board or its designee to negotiate the value of the easement and the wording of the easement. So you don't, the appraisal is kind of sets the rules for us with 30B. You can negotiate a higher price if that's your will, or you can go with appraised value. But again, step 2, we're going to negotiate a price and agree on the wording of the easement. Step 3 would be that the board would actually have to vote to declare the easement land as surplus to its needs. So before a town board can sell property, it needs to have that vote so that that's announcing to the world that you no longer need it for the purposes for which it was acquired. And the 4th and final step is an article on the town meeting warrant, because a sale of land needs to be approved by town meeting. So those 4 steps, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
How does the town highway department factor in on the sale of that land? If it's gonna go through the town, am I correct in hearing that it's gotta go through the town barn there of that property?
Well, yeah, so it certainly cuts through the property. Do you mean, does it go under a building?
No, it cuts through the property, so
Yeah.
if it's selling unneeded property, how does the driveway for the town highway department factor in? We're not selling that.
No, so really good question. And I think we need to know if DPW is comfortable with this or not. And if they're not, that's likely kind of important information for the select board to consider. However, as I look at this easement, so this is really an underground pipe. So, and you know, please correct me if I'm wrong, someone there, but as it travels underground, you know, we would allow them to dig it up. We would allow them to lay the pipe. They would then fill back in over the pipe, and they would have the right to go in and fix it or maintain it if they needed to. Other than that, we should have use of the land above it, right? So once the pipe is laid, we should still be able to use it for whatever we're using it for now. Although I would not suggest, if you know, we have future plans to put a structure in the location of the easement, to me, that would be a deal breaker. I don't think we want a sewer pipe running under one of our structures.
Would there be an impact study of the trucks going over those trucks are heavy, going over sewage on a over drainage over on a regular basis, day-to-day basis?
I certainly think we'd want to get that answer from the landowner's engineer. And if we weren't satisfied with that, I think we could tell them we're going to want to have them fund our own engineered study. So sewer pipes run under, you know, streets all the time. So I think we do know how to construct them so that trucks can pass and repass and not damage the pipe. But we'd certainly want to make sure from our perspective that it's installed that way and that we're comfortable that it would be installed that way.
But trucks aren't going to be driving over.
No.
It's basically 10 feet from the property line, the stone wall going through there. So the likelihood of, it would be able to withstand H20 truck loading if, you know, if it happened, but it's right on the property line essentially. And
Yep.
and to the point where it gets away from the property line, because the parcel does head south and we continue to head west. Right there, it's wetlands. So there's not going to be any traffic going there. And then, you know, to the west of that, we're going beside the little house, which drops down to a wetland right there. There's a little a pond, if you will. So
That's the 53.
yeah, I can't see I really can't see any situation where there'd be any driving over, but actually if there was, it's certainly not gonna impact this little 2-inch
Are the
pipe.
Culvers here? 53 looks like it's owned by Michael and Holly Culver. Nope, they're not here. I'm sorry, go on.
So it's the pipe's down 5 feet of cover. It's a 2-inch pipe. It could withstand H20 loading without no question.
That piping is gonna go through the property line of towards Ball Road, but it's gonna go through the middle of the yard in the rear going towards the wetlands, correct?
It's yeah, it's as the I highlighted the parcel right here, so
I'm bringing
the parcel turns south. And that's basically right where the wetlands start. So I don't know if you have any activity in the south part of that parcel or not down there, you know, where the little pond is.
Yeah, I just like to have my 2 cents if I may. I'm not trying to be the bad person, but I do have future plans for, after that, for one. That was waiting down, future proposals for the town. I was talking this over with Kurt Machete a couple of years ago. And he sounded very interested in letting Easement go through his property, so I would like them to reach out to Kurt to see if that's still a possibility versus going through the DPW. Yeah,
Machete's up here.
that auction place just.
Yeah.
If I may, that option is no longer available for 2 reasons. Kurt shied against it, and it had to go through another property owner in order to reach the cul-de-sac where the storage is on, I believe it's Victoria Drive or Lane. So we've explored that and it's come to a standstill. That's why we decided on the DPW land.
So if I'm looking at this map correctly, this would be going towards Ballinville Road between Baptist Common Cemetery and the edge. If you stand on Ballinville Road and look at the DPW, Dylan, to the right of the property, right through there.
That little gray house.
With the I think it's 6.5 acres that's out and back of like the sand pile and stuff. That's to the edge of that. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I'm orientated right.
I mean, the property, so you're tying in to existing sewer here, right?
That's correct.
All right, and then it's taking it all along the property line. I think this is where you said it starts to deviate. Cause you're, forget the number. I had it up there. But there's no roads or anything. This is all wood, this is all wooded.
Right.
So there's not traffic or anything. They're going in there to dig it up, and then that's the low pressure, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And you can't even see Brooks Road on this depiction, but that's over there. So this is all laying sewer pipe all along that property line, all the way out there. I have to take a look and see what that other one is. I'm gonna bring up another screen that just shows the property line.
Mr. Chairman,
Nightmare.
if I may, I believe this would be held similar to a water main or cable TV line. As soon as the project is complete, the ownership reverts back to the town. Because I don't believe you can maintain or sell water in Templeton unless you're a licensed situation or maintain a sewer line. So the town would own this as soon as the project is complete.
On the sewer line.
Yes. In other words, if you put a subdivision in and it's complete with the water main, sewer line, whatever, and the town accepts the road as a town road, they own the sewer line and whatever.
This, that's up to the sewer department,
No, we haven't yet.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Tom. I was just gonna ask you to chime in.
Yeah, I would respectfully disagree with that. I think it would be the sewer department's call as to whether or not they want to take ownership of this or leave it in private ownership, but it's not unusual, particularly in a difficult crossing, for a sewer department to require that part of it remains private, and not until it hits the sewer main in Baldwinville Road would it become public.
Yeah, I had a similar concern. Thank you for that, Tom. And yeah, the initial presentation was we started to open this with Grazler Engineering. I understood this was a private ownership. So I would have to question, does that become town property? Yes, it's an easement, but I think that's where it would stop.
Correct. Agreed.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, there are many questions here. You know, obviously this has to go to the Conservation Commission. There's discussions to be made with the sewer department, and I can probably come up with 3 or 4 additional questions as I sit and really digest and process this. But, you know, I thank you for the presentation and, you know, the descriptions, and it's definitely something we can take under advisement at this point, but I don't believe, and board back me up or argue with me on this, I don't believe any of us are in a position to take an action on this tonight.
No, not with the sewer commission and not the.
Right.
I mean, if we're trying to build consensus or otherwise, I think, you know, like we were discussing, Mr. Chair, we start talking with sewer, we start bringing people together, and you wind up having favorable. I'd look at this favorably.
Oh, I'm not gonna say we won't look at this, but
Oh,
until
yeah.
we have all the pieces together, and you're absolutely right, we need a consensus, and we
Mhm.
need to make sure that we're doing this, dotting the i's, crossing the t's, meeting, as Mr. Harrington brought up, the chapter 30B requirements, and you know, make sure we're taking it step by step sequentially, and not getting the dominoes out of line.
Would it be appropriate to get the assessment of the value of that easement now? I mean, it's a step that would have to happen.
Tom, what are your thoughts on that? What are some preliminary things that we can do while we're having some ongoing top level discussions?
Yeah, so I guess that would be one thing that we could tick off the list to understand kind of what kind of procurement we're going to have to do here. But I think kind of simultaneously, we want to understand what the sewer department thinks about this, because if it's not a plan that they're interested in, I'm not sure that we would want to pursue it.
I'm already considering what Bob said and the fact that there's wetlands and we already have a lot of growth in town that we're trying to keep up with, so I'm not leaning that way.
Well, we could say we're in agreement and the Conservation Commission can shoot it down, so we need
Yeah.
a multi-board.
I agree.
Right, it's gotta be a consensus across
We
a
can
bunch of
check all the
entities.
Boxes off.
Assessed
together.
value, I think, is a good idea.
Yep.
Let's see what we can do until we wind up having like we were saying, those higher level discussions.
Makes sense.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you for
No, I
the
think-
presentation.
I think it was a good crosstalk, you know, it was a lot of information coming at us, and I know we've got some questions that we've just addressed here, and council is kind of leaning, saying, yes, we're thinking the right way here, so. We will continue this process.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Tom, that list, do you have it written down, like the kind of like that recipe? Like,
Yeah,
what are
I
the
do.
steps? Okay, thank you.
Shall I send it to you all?
You can send it to Adam. Adam can share it with us.
Okay,
I appreciate that, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
sure. Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good night. Up next, item 5E. Action regarding the 10 Pleasant Street property. Mr. Zozak, I believe you're up on this one, sir.
Good evening, Board. Bob
Good
Sozik,
evening.
Public Works, Templeton. As you know, we've been discussing and working on 10 Pleasant Street for some quite time. Adam and I and Holly have been working on trying to get the asbestos survey done, which we did proceed and get done. And now have a bid package ready to go out with your approval. On the asbestos survey, the good news is it wasn't as bad as we all thought. There is some asbestos on some lamination in the kitchen and most of it in the cellar. With that being said, we're not under any time constraint. Building has to be down by the end of the month. We've been sitting on it 12 years now. Speaking to the gentleman that did the survey, we could probably save $25,000 to $30,000 if we remove the asbestos and dispose of that properly through a licensed company, and then demo the house, which can go to a conventional landfill or transfer station. If we treated it all as asbestos and hazardous, it has to go to New York, and you're talking over $8,000 for a load. Just to get it out there, that's not the demolition. The contractor I've been working with, getting input from him as well. He's also suggesting you could bid it out two ways, the asbestos alone and the demolition. But I talked to Adam and the contractor and the guy that did the survey on the asbestos. We're gonna go out as one bid, but two different chunks. Contractor that I've been dealing with he's got the capability to bid it both chunks the way it is. And that way there, once you get the asbestos removed, they can right behind them start tearing down the house. And there's not gonna be any delay or lag time.
Thank you for that. That answered a question I had, what do we do if we have somebody who can't do both steps of the process?
So when all is said and done, this is just out of the ballpark figure. He doesn't expect it to go no more than 120,000 for everything, but lean probably more towards the 100,000. Like I said, escalation, it all depends people rates and if they go up. Working with Adam on the bid package, he did reach out to all the departments to get their input on what they would like to see or anything missing from any input. A few of the departments came back. We added those in there, so I think it's gonna be a good project. And I know this one company will bid on it, and he's gonna bid on it the best he can to make it affordable for Templeton. So from there, Adam, if you have.
I think Bob pretty much summed it up. We since the board voted at their last meeting, we just wanted to get consensus on how we're going to go out to bid with this project. The way we have it designed here, we would have the asbestos abatement first, and then the demolition portion we would do after the removal of the asbestos. So we have one bid package, and it'll be one contract, as Bob mentioned when we were putting it together. I did reach out to all the departments. Bob caught dust control that was added in here. Then in your draft motion you see in front of you, the building commissioner suggested a rodent survey. So we're going to proceed with that while this is out to bid. So I think we pretty much have everything together here. Once the board approves this, we'll get this out to bid, hopefully by tomorrow, if not early next week. And we can hopefully get this building.
How much does a rodent survey cost?
Lori, I was speaking with Lori about, I believe it was roughly 2,000 or so.
Okay.
Around that range. Could be higher, could be a little bit lower.
I remember the last meeting, we had a discussion about marking the building.
Yeah, so signs have been ordered. I actually reached out to the sign company today. She believes they're gonna be shipped out sometime tomorrow, and we should have them by the end of the week or first part of next week.
Outstanding. And for those that don't know or fully understand, they are large red signs that have a white diagonal cross on it.
Yeah, 2x2.
And this is some guidance and recommendations that came about after the 1999 Worcester 6 tragedy with the cold storage warehouse to mark abandoned buildings.
Mhm.
It's just one of those formalities and a piece that got dropped along the way, but we're going to correct it as we move forward.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice.
I move to approve markings for the building, rodent survey, and to go out to bid for the asbestos abatement, removal, then demolition of 10 Pleasant Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, team?
Just one quick question, maybe for Adam. On page 2 of 12, I was wondering why it says all work above must follow proper dust control. So following up with the fire chief would be strongly encouraged. The strongly encouraged, I just thought that was kind of weak. Like, is it because it's not necessary? I just was wondering why that choice of words.
Well, dust control falls under the fire chief, as I understand it. And basically, it's really just following up with those departments. Also, I have in here directives from the town's building commissioner, because if they were to demo the building, they have to get necessary permits for that as well.
Yeah.
So certainly folks could, Bob, you've dealt with protocols, if I can, through the chair to the DPW director. When it comes to this dust control, there's generally these standards you have, right? We talked about this, so.
Usually, like you said, the fire chief's involved, the water department's involved, because more than likely they're gonna tap a hydrant, use a hydrant and some fire hose. That's how they're gonna do the dust control. And they're not gonna just waste water, but as the dust cloud arises, they'll have a fog pattern or something on it. But if the fire department might be assisting them with some fire hose or a nozzle, or if they have their own, but he will be overseeing that.
If they want to. But see, I get, the way it comes across to me is if they want to, and it's up to them. I'm not sure if that's something that we should change so that it's up to us to make sure they're getting the proper guidance and taking the right measures. So
Well,
to me, that leaves a wiggle room for them.
I'm sure myself and fire chief will be overseeing the whole operation.
Yeah, it says must follow proper dust control. And then the strongly encouraged part is basically talking to the fire chief.
Yeah.
So I would assume they have dust control measures. It's basically coordinating their effort.
Yeah, it just seems to me it gives them an out.
No, there's not gonna be an out.
None, I wouldn't call it an out. I could see you using the word option, like, oh, I didn't know I didn't have to talk to the,
Yeah, well, that's what that
Yep.
means to me, strongly encouraged.
they're not gonna run away from the fire chief, like, quick hide, it's fire chief.
You'll be able to test out your new pollution devices.
Watch for the spikes on the purpleware sensors.
I love how he worked that in. Good job.
That was good. Any further discussions, team? Hearing none, we will bring this one to a vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffis,
Yes,
Mr. Curry.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you, team. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Action item 5F. Accepting the economic development earmark of $200,000.
Well, this is some good news for the town. Senator Goby and legislative delegation secured the town a $200,000 earmark. And now it's just a matter of us accepting those funds. I think this is some more good news coming to Templeton. That's all I really have on it.
Mr. Chair.
I love seeing those big checks when they come in.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I have a, I don't know if it's a question or just for discussion. It says for the email that he got from Senator Goby's office, it said, for reference, the language of the earmark is provided further that not less than 200,000 shall be expended for economic development initiatives in the town of Templeton. What does that mean to you? I mean, I know that we've got enough people for the EDIC to start talking about that.
That means for me that that is under the oversight of the EDIC, which is in charge with economic development, and they have specific charge and things that you can do to incur debt, bonds, advertise. all kinds-
Studies, yeah.
all kinds of things. And
Okay.
that, to me, that's what that is intended for,
And-
not to be going to use, we improve the sidewalks, that'll make everybody happy. That's not economic development to me.
Okay,
I have to
I'm
agree
thinking
with,
of the right thing then.
I have to agree with Selectman Bennett, and, as I'm looking at this, the earmark is 200,000 for economic development initiatives, and that last sentence, providing further, not less than the 200,000 shall be expended for that purpose. We're receiving it, we're saying where it's gonna go, and we need to make sure we do what it says that we're going to do with it.
We still have, I'm not sure the number, because I know some have been bought, but American Tissue properties that have, old buildings on them, or there are lots here or there. They need to be marketed, looked at, what they can be used for. If anybody's interested in them and want to come in and say, well, yeah, we'll take it. We'd take it if you took the building down, or we'll take it, this, that, the other thing to me, but that 200,000 should have the oversight of the EDIC, since we finally have a quorum.
Yes.
About how we got there with the quorum, but we finally have a quorum, so we can actually do something and function after a number of years of. It's been there, on the list, but haven't done anything.
How long
Doesn't
does this
have
money
been
stick
before.
around?
The earmark right now, the chair and I, we filled out the necessary paperwork. So I believe they'll be following up January, where we're gonna get more
Yeah, he
information.
he told us it would be mid to late January, so.
How long does the money last?
That-
Until it's expended?
As far as I know, so some state money has reporting periods. Right now, we're not clear, but because this is an earmark, I would assume that we have the earmark and it doesn't expire at the end of the fiscal year. I would assume. Until we get more information
We get
from
more information.
the state, I don't have that information. But I can say I don't think it expires.
He did acknowledge receipt
end
when
of
we
fiscal
sent
year.
the application and said, yes, we're willing to accept this, which we talked about last time.
And then we knew the board had to then vote on this
Yes.
here.
Once,
Before we-
once we got the notification, yes, the earmark's been approved, but there will be additional. And I believe the legislation is not in session right now. That's part of it.
But I don't believe it expires at the end of the fiscal year.
I didn't read that when I read the
Yeah.
letter, but I'm not gonna make assumptions either without.
That's why I'm saying
It
my
was a
guess is.
very short and somewhat vague letter, but that's okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice.
I move to accept the earmark as presented.
Second, that motion.
Any discussions, team?
I'll talk to Glenn and Liz, the chair and vice chair of the EDIC, and we'll get some meetings on the calendar. That was mostly why, if the EDIC is where the discussion is going to talk about procurement or expenditure and otherwise, then I'd be worried about meeting structure and making decision processes and public input and otherwise within a timely fashion. But if it doesn't have short strings attached to it, then I feel better. But I'll continually report back as the rep on that corporation.
Perfect, and it certainly falls in the wheelhouse of the EIC.
Yep.
So once the chair and I, we're gonna be communicating on this, and once we get any information, I'll update the board.
Yep.
I mean.
Sounds good.
Cause I mean, I believe they have your contact, so we'll just
It'll
follow.
come to me the day I get it. I'm gonna forward it on
Perfect.
to you and we can discuss strategy and the moving forward and where we get the rest of EDIC on board with it. That's unfortunately how the business gets done. Okay. Any further discussions, team?
No.
Hearing none, let's bring this to the vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffiths.
Yes,
Mr. Curry.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you, team. Action item G, extending the food pantry license. The Codys have been sitting here patiently awaiting.
Oh, okay. This is, third year?
Yes. I believe that is true.
Mr. Chair, I would just ask for a quick update, and then this is too easy.
Mhm.
Sure, come on.
Please.
Michelle Cody, Director of the Templeton Food Pantry. On behalf of my husband and I, we're so thrilled that we have your vote of confidence. The food pantry need has increased greatly, over the last 3 years, but the community has rallied and we've been able to meet that need. We're feeding well over 550 individuals a month.
Wow.
We were seeing mostly elderly and those on disability, and now we're seeing employed families coming to the food pantry. But again, it is a 100% volunteer endeavor, and the community is just rising to the occasion, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it.
Michelle, I didn't know the numbers were that high. I know when Jackie was giving us numbers, she would say, she would give it to us in families by a week. So she'd say, I had anywhere from 5 to 10 families, but if you're upwards of 500 to 600 individuals in a month, that's an uptick, like you say.
Yes, and some of them are repeat.
Yeah,
But
Yep. Yeah, that's to be
that's how
expected.
many
Yep.
we're serving.
It's an absolute wonderful thing, though, that we're dealing with the food insecurities for the community.
Absolutely.
How is you fitting into the network? I know we've got Gardner, the Greater Worcester Food Bank. How has been your relationship with the others that have the same mission? Are you getting support? Where, like, I remember at one point milk was difficult to get. Are you fitting into the network? Are your needs being met?
We have a lot of partnerships. I have a partnership with the Worcester County Food Bank. We
Mhm.
go and pick up 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of food
Perfect.
from them every month. I
Okay.
have a partnership with the Country Hen. They provide 45 dozen of eggs every other week.
Oh, thank you.
A partnership with the Petersham Pet Food Task Force.
Wow.
They're giving us, dog and cat food and kitty litter. The school has helped. Ed will call me and say, I have extra milk, and,
Okay,
just all kinds of partnerships throughout the community.
that's great.
Yeah.
That is so good to hear.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would just like to say that, I always hear good things about that, and the fact that it's at the senior center, people can just do one-stop shopping.
Yep. Yep. From what Michelle's saying, it's her partnerships have expanded much beyond what they were before. Yep. That's great.
Yes.
So glad to hear it.
And I know we,
Share on them, like being a tenant, they run a nice operation. Holly, any headaches for them.
Clean, organized.
Gail had stopped me in the hall a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and talked about. Yeah, we knew about the kitchen, but she said there's a laundry list of other things that building has. There was one, is like a cement shower, or was it a closet?
There are cement showers, because it was made to be a shelter.
Right.
And so the other half of the bottom floor has shelters and.
Okay.
Right,
Have
rough
other
cut.
rooms in it.
Yeah. So anything we can do, like, I'm glad that you brought that up to, our attention. We know about the roof. We're taking care of the roof. We know about the kitchen. We have a pretty good path for that. For anything else that that you might need, that we may need as a facility, because that's one of our gems in the community.
Mm.
And we just need to be able to take care of it, and anything that might have fallen through the cracks, like cement shelter.
Yeah, there's a second phase.
Okay.
Yeah, the projector, they have an elevator, sleeping
What
quarters,
is-
showers.
Cots.
It's gonna be quite
Okay.
extensive, but that'll be a whole nother phase.
Okay,
I know our emergency management has had a couple conversations about this as well, and they would really like to see us get this where it needs to be so we can move it forward and turn it into an emergency shelter. Absolutely.
And this is where the senior center needs a lot.
I got you. I'm not trying to fill up your plate.
No, that's good. That's good. And I know a bunch of groups and committees around the town have been very active in making donations to the food pantry as well. And I'm sure you're very appreciative of it. I am very appreciative of it. And it's the typical staunch New Englanders. We're gonna roll up our sleeves and get it done no matter what.
Absolutely. The coffers were getting very slim prior to the holidays, but it has really built up and it will get us through for many months.
Mr. Chair?
And there was money in a separate account for the Friends of the Templeton Elders too, for food.
Right.
There was a separate food pantry.
Okay. I'm working on it. Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vice.
I move to extend to December 31st, 2023, the food pantry license as presented and for the town administrator to sign the amendment.
Second that motion?
I have a motion with a second. Any discussions? Second call, any discussions? Hearing none, we'll bring this to a roll call vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffis,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, moving into old business. We have an action item in front of us, item A, providing a letter as part of the public comment process for the conservation regarding the sludge landfill. You know, we have Ron joining us as well. Good evening, sir.
Ron, I heard this is your last week.
Oh, my goodness.
It's my last day.
Friday, huh?
Congratulations. Are you fully retiring?
I am, but I will definitely still be here working for the town of Templeton, phone call away. I am in the process of training Scott Swinger. He's taken my spot. Well, we'll be in and out helping him.
Well, congratulations. How many years?
21.
Oh, great. Appreciate your service.
Thank you. I came here today because I wanted to try to let you all know what's going on with the Gardner landfill as far as what I know. I did have some people contact me back in September. I am not a sludge landfill expert. That's not my field. I am a water superintendent. I deal with drinking water, so I emailed my boss, Paula Karen. She oversees anything that I do for the town of Templeton as far as drinking water. She contacted Muriel Stone. And I think you guys have this email.
I sent it off to them.
As you can see at the top here, there's about 8 or 9 people that she has also contacted about the Gardner landfill. Most of these people are Mass DEP for drinking water. Below, you can see in the letter, Muriel Stone had notified me that MEPA, the Massachusetts Environmental Protection, is also overseeing this project. There's like 3 or 4 state agencies that are overseeing this project. For a little bit for me of knowing sludge landfills, when I worked for the town of Air, back in the early 80s, they had to put in a new sludge landfill, and they had to put in a 1-foot liner. When I worked for 12 years for the town of Acton in the late 90s, they also installed a they put the whole town needed to have sewer. And they also put in a sludge landfill that had a 1-foot line. When I started working for the town of Templeton, my job to oversee to make sure that water's safe. Contacted the town of Templeton Sewer Department. They installed in 1976 a 1-foot liner in their sludge landfill. And they are just upstream from the Maple Street wells.
I wasn't aware of that.
So just so you know, so after getting this information, I was going to have a phone call with Rob Olivia. He's a garden engineer. I wasn't able to make the phone call. Mr. John Driscoll, he's the head of the Templeton Water, Light and Water. Had a conversation with him. Rob Olivia assured John Driscoll that they are doing everything to the book with all these agencies that I've been speaking about. And they're in the process of having sludge landfill engineered. And they have asked their engineer to install a 2-foot liner to make sure that the town wells in Templeton are protected, the Otter River is protected, and all of the homes that have private wells in the area are protected. So I feel that I'm very assured that they are doing the best they can to make sure the water is going to be safe for the town of Templeton. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take.
Well, I appreciate that update, and I know this has been a hot topic. Not that I don't want to say this the wrong way. There's been a lot of information flying back and forth on social media. A lot of folks have interest. And there are a lot of questions being asked, and we're hearing what is being said. And we had a presentation 2 weeks ago where some timelines had fallen through the crack, but we're doing everything we can to get these all lined up and make sure we're dotting our I's, crossing our T's.
Well, we have had a couple meetings, for the Light and Water Department.
Mhm.
And we were expecting people to come. Nobody came. I really thought that there wasn't an issue. What did happen, one of the reasons why I came here tonight, I had somebody over the weekend come to me and tell me that they were told by Terry Griffis, well, I don't know if it was because of the meeting you had, that they took it the wrong way, that if the sludge landfill goes into the Gardner, that the drinking water in the town of Templeton was going to be unsafe to drink. That's why I'm here. That is not true.
Thank you for that. And that could just be a misinterpretation of what was said.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly, but.
I got a question, if perhaps, you said that you had a meeting and you expect people. My thing is I'd just like to, as a service to the people and to cover the base, to let them know. Because I don't know the number of people who watch the select board meetings or go to what, apparently not many, or anyone showed up. If we could put a notice, send it out, I don't know, the tax bill, light bill, something, just informing people that this is happening, and it's not a town of Templeton project, it's a Gardner, city of Gardner project, and go to the Conservation Commission meeting or something for information, just so you don't get that wrong. People can go see, be aware of it, and they can go see and hear for themselves the project and how it's moving along. Right, because it's been going on for a
Well,
long.
there's the bottom line. I would say that. I mean, I don't know how many people are here to talk about this, but I don't really have a say in what's going on in Garden.
Right.
I'm just here tonight ensuring you what I know.
Correct. But as an abutter,
But-
we can voice our concerns.
Yes. But
Absolutely.
if they have any real questions, you really do need to go to the town of Garden.
Right, so that's what I would think, if we could, a simple little message that, hey, this is a project in the city of Gardner. Look at these meetings, the Conservation Commission or planning board, whomever, give them an address, and how to contact and find out about these meetings, just so everyone would know that it's happening. You don't want somebody to go, what? I heard this, what? Especially if you live in that area and you have a private well, you don't want, oh, my well's junk, when really it's not, because lack of information is almost as bad information.
And-
I just-
Huh?
You guys do a lot of, saying there's no problem with the dumping water. Just so everybody understands.
Or maybe we can let next water.
Think it would be a simple thing in one little sheet, simple message, be aware that this is going on and if you have concerns, go to those meetings.
Well, I do know, it was about 8 years ago when they were started the sludge landfill over there. There was a big group of people. And we did have people coming to our meetings, and all of a sudden it went to nothing. So I took it as everybody was getting the same information that I'm getting. They're doing the things right. So that's why it got smaller.
No offense to the water department, but I have been reaching out and I was told there was going to be a meeting, so I changed my job. I was where I was working and I came and I got the cleaning lady and the meeting was canceled. And I didn't get
I've never
any.
had a meeting that was canceled.
She said Mr. Driscoll was sick and he went home and I was told there was going to be a meeting. I forget who I called, but I did call somebody and say that the meeting, there is no meeting. I'm here. I raced there from Orange and it's no offense to anybody. My point is human error. When I did ask at the first Gardner Conservation Commission meeting about the liner, it wasn't direct answers, and maybe that's not their jurisdiction or purview, but I didn't get the answers that they exactly knew the facts about, and if I can look, I did write down some notes. So the 2-foot liner is new to me, and again, I didn't get that answer. You're saying you're guaranteeing that that's sufficient, the 2-foot liner. Is there any, let me see. So it's not going to impact if there's a leak, the fact that there's no clay barriers in our zone 2 wells. Because I was hoping to put that in the letter that there is no clay barriers in our zone 2 wells. I mean, Miss Theorides is the third person in charge of the state. I don't take this letter lightly, and I think we might be able to use a little bit, maybe put a little bit more information because of human error. That wasn't the first thing. I sent an email asking how many people would on our side of the Otter River would be impacted, and I didn't get a response for that. And again, human error. People only have so much time, and they can only do so much. So I mean no disrespect. So I did talk about that, and I was wondering, if anything did go wrong, would it be prudent to send a letter to Gardner to ask them to inform us, like what specific corrective action and communication will be made to Templeton if in the event of a liner leakage? What if they don't put it in right? We don't know. There is I don't know if there's a study that can.
Go on.
I just assured you with this letter, you're gonna have 3 or 4 state departments that are gonna oversee this project. And you have 8 or 9 people from Mass DEP that are gonna be overseeing this project. It's a team of people. A team of people. From
And
each
perfection
department.
is, I just am curious about the margin of error. That's all. I'm curious about the margin of error.
I think it is way simpler than this. It's not about the technical details. Ron could sit here and talk about all of the technical details. It's interesting. You talked about the big group of people that showed up and then it kind of dwindled down. The technical details people were listening to, but what you're saying is there is a camp. It doesn't matter what, barriers, providers, it could be 3 or 4 feet thick. People just don't want it. So how do you start from that end we just don't want it. There's no technical thing that you could offer. We don't want sludge expansion next to our wells. Because there is, there's risk or otherwise, maybe low risk, but even, I'm quoting just a smidgen from It's a Wonderful Life. Just a smidgen of risk is not acceptable to someone living in that area. So I think the approach is not attacking the technical pieces. I think the approach is if people don't want it, you're all in. You basically say no risk should be taken whatsoever.
That's what I feel. Right?
I kind of, if I was living there, I would probably be of the mind of, it's not like they're installing, they're not adding a bunch of extra rabbits or something like, something soft and cuddly. This is sludge. And I definitely, it's a very visceral,
Permanent.
I know, it's a very
It's
visceral word,
17
sludge.
Fix.
Yep.
But it's never going to go away. It's a Band-Aid that's never gonna go away. And
We
I
may
think we
not
should
be able to, if in terms of licenses and the experts that Ron's talking about, you may not be able to stop the project because it is adequate. It is technically, it's lawful. It's
I got you.
funded, it's lawful,
tick
it's
all the
safe.
boxes.
Yep.
So I think on behalf of the citizens, if our citizens don't want it, then we basically become the forward looking. We don't think this is a good idea. We strongly recommend, here are the things here are the additional safety things that we would recommend, but we just don't think this is a good idea, and we go on record as saying that. Because I with everything that Ron said and reading the email or otherwise, they're checking all the blocks. They're getting all of the right things done to go on with this project. But I agree with you. It's expansion of sludge.
68,000 cubic tons in a 2-foot liner. That's going to be perfect.
You have to understand, the town of Templeton has a 1-foot line.
Yes.
And in my position, I am a water superintendent. I'm not in the audience. If I say too much and start a war with the town of Gardner
Mm,
in the seat that you're sitting
do.
in,
I
they
do.
could come to Templeton and change what the Templeton needs to do for their sewer.
Yeah, I hear you.
You have to be careful.
Yep.
I hear you. So could we ask the secretary to include an environment impact report? Would that be?
I think that's already part of the process, isn't it?
EIN.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to qualify my earlier statement, when I said, picking up the pieces and some of the pieces fell through the cracks. 2 weeks ago, when we had the presentation, there was a process and we did not get a notification as an abutter from anything I've been able to go through. There's a total of 1,600 some odd pages. I'm nowhere near through that stack. It is a lot of reading. And this was given to us 2 weeks ago. I'm doing my damnedest, but I mean, I'm human as well, and I have a life too. But yes,
Right.
it is a high interest. I want to make sure we're doing this correctly, but you so eloquently put it. How much can we tell another city what to do? And it's kind of that we got to do the
Yeah,
tap
you gotta
dance
be
a little bit.
careful. There's that fine line there too.
Yeah, that geopolitical barrier is huge.
And we contribute to that sludge that they have to get rid of. I'm not sure how much, but
I understand
have-
that.
this section of town goes to that sewage treatment plant that's in Templeton.
Yep.
So we contribute to that sludge that they have to get rid of. So we can only do so much, not in my backyard before.
I
Yeah.
think that we didn't create this problem. We inherited it, and how we want to go forward for the next 100 years. I'm not up to a 17-year fix. I think we need to start thinking about 100 years from now. It's unacceptable to me that it's just a Band-Aid when there's 80% of other towns dispose of their sludge not in a landfill with either anaerobic digestion or composting. And again, I care about the citizens of Templeton, Baldwinville in that area. Their air quality goes down. There's been a lot of complaints about the smell. People can't even visit their loved ones in the Gardner Cemetery without, smelling that smell. And, I do respect you, Ron, and I respect John Driscoll. I've had a very hard time getting a hold of you guys, and I've held my patience, and, Chris Stewart he's a quality person as well. So it's, no disrespect. You've done your job amazing. You've got awards. You got a Clean Water Award. Was it 2019? You got a Clean Water Award?
2018.
2018.
Bob
You put your heart and soul into this.
Bob Bosworth was the gentleman that actually handed me the award and shook my hand and thanked me for the great job I've been doing for the town of Templeton.
You have been, and I have nothing but praise to say for the amount of sweat and equity you put into your profession. Well done. It's just going forward, the next 50 years, 100 years, I think not just Templeton, but the surrounding areas needs to start taking a look at how we can provide for the future generation. I don't want to leave them in a mess. 17 years. On the sly, it was, oh, I won't be around then, so it'll be someone else's problem. Well, I don't want to bequeath a problem to the future generations of Templeton, Baldwinville, Otter River. That's not my goal, So I'm hoping that our letter will make a strong statement, and we can, just do the best we can going forward. And they really consider it before it goes to DEP.
Mr. Lawrence.
So based on the news, we just learned of Mr. Davin, the water superintendent. I have a lot of faith in our water department to do a great job. I'll just suggest that we go forward with the draft letter for the select board, similar to my letter I sent off. And I think that will be, I don't think we should amend it any further and proceed in that direction. That way we relayed the same concerns that I brought up earlier, and just stay consistent with that, and let the process play out. As Mr. Davin alluded to, there's already other individuals, experts involved from DEP and all these other agencies. But we will relay the concerns that I originally brought to the Gardner Conservation Commission. I think that's the best way to go at this point. Thank you.
And we are within the window for the comments, so yes, this is truly one of those speak now or forever hold your peace scenarios, which I don't like being backed into that corner.
Whose comments?
The comment period in the city of Gardner.
Okay.
We have like another week or two to get
It's
everything.
not Gardner, this goes to the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency, and it goes to the office of Kathleen A. Theoretti, Secretary of Energy and Environmental
I don't know
Affairs.
what that would do if the comments need to be directed towards Gardner.
Well, they're looking into it. They have to dot this is a public comment. So we're representing the public, and they're taking public comment right now for 20 days.
EEA is.
Yeah,
Yes.
MIPA. It's in MIPA. I'm just wondering, if we're dotting all our i's, if it's important to put that those wells don't have our zone 2 wells don't have a clay barrier. If there's anything we can say to get their attention, is it, if it's something that they'll look up?
Again, I think attacking the technical side of it, it does nothing. Because they're gonna come back and they're gonna give you the exact thing that they've done to protect, to meet whatever standards or otherwise. That this is it's way beyond technical at this point. It's you know what NIMBY is, right?
Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. That's the direction that if we were gonna do a letter, that's the direction that it has to come from. It can't be, oh, you didn't use, potassium chlorate and a clay something or other. They're well beyond that at this point, with a load of experts that are basically saying, if they want to expand the sludge pit, then they're doing it properly. again, we don't like it because there's the perceived threat, whatever, however low or high it is, the perceived threat of it sitting on the other side of our border with Gardner to say, not my backyard, this is too close, this is the wrong thing to expand in this place. So it's not about the technical stuff, it's about principle.
Mhm.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yep.
I do not think that the original letter that Adam sent on to Gardner, I think that was sufficient for where this is going and the message that we're crafting as we're meeting right now. This letter does not do that. I do, it just doesn't do it. It has to be rewritten. That's not to say that your
Well,
letter wasn't good. It was. I'm saying if it's coming from us, the five of us, this
Well, I'm
letter
just
is
saying
not
that that letter relays to concerns that were brought forward from residents. It's
Yep.
not addressing the technical side of the house.
Right.
That just says, hey, these are our concerns. Basically, it in a simple, concise, one-page letter.
Yep. Basically, it's quoting the previous letter,
Exactly.
right? But it doesn't say that it's quoting. It says the concerns addressed in that letter are the same as ours and they are as follows. So number two, it starts, my understanding was the abutting, that's not quoted, we're not it would be our understanding was the abutting, but I don't have that level of understanding. How about just regular, the understanding was the abutting Cummings Otter River Conservation Area is created in part to protect the Templeton wells. If we're quoting the previous letter,
Mhm.
then we stay with that. But if we're just rephrasing, then we should rephrase.
And what about the putting in, we have 2 town wells and 6 private wells, that's not important?
Well, I don't think we need to get into the specifics. I think
And over
by just making
200,
some adjustments like Mike
residents.
suggest or select board member Gary suggested, I think would be sufficient. But once again, it's up to the board. If they don't want to write the letter, it's up. I'm not telling you. I leave that to the board to decide.
And how about my
you're good.
215 people within a mile of the smell? Is that something that would hit home with them?
Did they, I recall Gavin Road when there was the potential for,
Yeah, because
right, that product to basically put the base coat on there. They came to us with resident letters with, I've 40, 50 signatures on it. That would be more effective, I think. I mean, yeah, the select board can write something that basically says we have concerns. The person reading that letter, this
I know.
technical expert is going to read a letter where it's quite obvious that we are not technical experts. So we have to approach it of, we are speaking on behalf of the residents. We are not okay with the sludge expansion in such proximity to a well. To try and talk details with a person that's probably doing it most of her adult life, it just makes us look foolish. Residents adding in letters with signatures, that becomes emotional. And that's another part of it, to say how much they are concerned about it. But like Ron was saying, people showed up at first and then they just started dwindling off. I think it's probably because a lot of their safety concerns were addressed, whether it's 2-foot liner. Again, I don't know, hydrology and the mechanics of all this stuff, but if the technical people are saying we're not only legally sufficient, but we're expanding the protection by more than the standard amount, then I can't, I can't write a letter that says, nah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd send the letter, but to me, it does not do any favors for this board. I think it was fine the way Adam sent it the first time, and it's not to the same person, so it's not like the same audience. Basically, a letter concern saying, hey, here at this point, August, right? In August, a month before we even know some of the discussions, in August, we're basically saying, hey, we're hearing these things and we've got some concerns. That was the right context for those things. But just rehashing the same things after we know so much more at this point, I really don't think it gets us anywhere. It doesn't, the people that you're thinking about, the ones that are saying, not in my backyard, it doesn't do anything for them. As written.
Mr. Chair? Is that?
May I speak?
Yep.
You want me to
Yeah, come on up
kick
front.
Ron out of his chair?
Thank you, Ron.
Congratulations.
You can ride shotgun with him.
Hi, my name is Joanne Burden,
I
Well,
don't-
citizen. Hi, citizen of Templeton, a former conservation commissioner. And I currently sit on the Millers River Watershed Council. I agree with you totally. We, as far as getting into the technical part of it. And I also agree with you totally, it's not worth the risk, even if the risk is small. One thing Gardner has not done, and this can be a question or a comment put in to the letter, they have not exhausted alternative to, expansion of the landfill. So that is one thing that can be included in there. I think our the concerns are justified. It doesn't, NEPA comments don't necessarily have to be all technical.
Right.
Okay. So I would really encourage Templeton to send a letter, some kind of comments, what you feel comfortable with. The expansion of the current sludge landfill depository is at best a temporary measure. We know that, we've discussed it. And that measure could place Templeton's water supply at a significant increased risk of permanent and irreversible contamination. Forever chemical compounds, along with chemical contaminants, could create source pollution. Gardner is having a problem with the existing sludge landfill leaching out. Now, they have not addressed it.
Is it,
I would
is that
wonder-
documented?
Alan has it. If Templeton water, is it being tested for PFAs and all these forever chemicals? I do not believe that the water department, Ron could probably correct me, are actually testing for these contaminants.
Templeton Water does.
For the PFAs.
Not only do we do it, the town of Templeton's sewer department has a sludge landfill. And they have steel pipes that are pounded into the ground where they test the water for leachate as well.
Well, they
Protect
did,
the wells that are below the Templetons.
but I did tour that and they said they do not test for PFAs, yeah. So this could create source pollution that could permeate the groundwater resources proximal to the wellheads in East Templeton and Otter River. Subsequent large groundwater withdrawal could possibly suck up these contaminants and pollute the drinking water supply. Again, a lot of unanswered questions. And they can tell you they're going to put in a 4-foot liner. Nobody can guarantee that these are not going to eventually leach out and pollute our town wells and the private wells that are so close. And you're gonna get odor. And I think we went through this for a very long time with that landfill. I realize we have our own sludge landfill. Two wrongs do not make a right. And maybe that will be something the town will have to address at some point. But after touring, our sludge landfill, there was no smell. It was very, very well done. and it's supposed to last for 100+ years. But they may make people that are landfilling sludge use alternative methods that are a much cleaner, better way to address sludge. And Gardner simply has barely looked into it. They had a peer review done, the Conservation Commission, the peer review company Ty and Bond made comments and recommendations that the Conservation Commission didn't even take into consideration and issued a notice of intent. The current sludge depository site is located very close to protected conservation lands and valuable water resources, such as wetlands and surface waters, including the semi-restored Otter River. Thanks to the Clean Waters Act, there's been significant recovery in the health of the river, and the otters have returned. You know, growing up as a kid, I wondered why they call it the Otter River. I never saw an otter in there, but the water was all kinds of different colors, depending on what the paper mill was doing that day. The landfill expansion jeopardizes the continued recovery of the Otter River. The Otter River is a major tributary to the Millis River.
Why aren't you writing the letter for us?
And the Millis River then flows into the Connecticut River. Degradation of water quality through contamination, pollution of the Otter River would pose a far-reaching negative impact for many within local municipalities and the Commonwealth. You know, I serve on the Millis River Watershed Council. We're regional, we're very active, we're very concerned about this expansion. And in actually very concerned about what is going on out there currently with their sludge landfill, because there's problems out there and they're not even addressing those. So my concern is they're going to make this even bigger. There's going to be problems, and you know, are they going to take care of it? If our wells, just say, are contaminated with all of these chemicals that can be forever, what's going to happen? It's going to cost Templeton. Gardner's not going to come in and go, yeah, we'll take care of you. You know, the contamination was caused by our sludge landfill. And not to say maybe the increases and, you know, possible sicknesses, or people can't drink the water anymore. I believe it was Ron who told me Templeton has no projected sites for new wells or water, public water drinking resources. So we've really got to take care of what we have. And again, two wrongs don't make a right. Yes, I realize we have a sludge landfill, and hopefully people are going to do better in the future because they know that now with new technologies coming out, there are much, much better ways of taking care of our waste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Alan Russo, who was at the last meeting.
Yep, hello again.
Just briefly, you know, I think it's really important that you comment in the MEPA process. It's unfortunate they do have a deadline. It is the 12th of January. Even if you keep these comments at a high level, which I agree, you know, with the ability to get technical on this thing, you know, there is over 900 pages of reference material and engineering report that was filed with the ENF.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're not gonna be able to get through all that.
That 900 pages was part of the 1600 on everything that we had. It is, yes.
So I looked at large pieces of that.
Yep.
You know, the executive summaries on some of the attachments. So but I do think the concern, you know, we say NIMBY, not in my backyard. You really don't want this in your backyard. And I think,
agree.
I think you need to
very much in line with the existing letter. Change some of the wording that indicates it's from the select board versus mine. You know, I agree with some of the text in there. Deal with the big issues, you know, this thing is within a mile of 2 of your public wells. Those wells are a big deal for Templeton. I don't know how much water they deliver. You guys know how many residents they support. Something goes wrong with those wells, 5 years, 15 years, even 20 years down the road through a leakage, a leachate leakage, your water's gonna come offline. And you're gonna have to deal with that. And so water's the big thing. I think odors are a second level. And talk about the fact that you have a number of residents within a mile of this, they've already experienced odor problems. That should be in there. And I think lastly, you should ask for a full environmental impact report. The secretary is going to take comments from all these state agencies. All right, that's what MEPR is. It's a cross-agency thing. The public and impacted municipalities. Yeah, I'm shocked that you weren't sent the ENF to begin with, because on the list of people that need to be notified is impacted municipalities. How could you not be impacted when the proponent has you having 2 public wells within 1 mile? That was a complete.
Without a
oversight.
clay barrier.
Yeah, now I think injecting a comment letter at this point is extremely, it's part of your due diligence as a potentially, as an impacted municipality. You're in a butter, you're closer to this than a lot of Gardner is. So I think it's important you do one. I think you shouldn't get into too much technical deal. You should talk more about the air and water impacts to your wells and things. But ask for an EIR, an environmental impact. This is the first pass, ENF. An EIR will require the proponent to do much more due diligence for you, for your benefit, and more analysis. So that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Ron, I got a quick question. So Joanne was saying there's no other place to drill otherwise. The wells we have are the wells what we have. Was that an accurate statement?
There's other places we could go, but we don't need, right now, the town of Templeton doesn't need another well.
Okay.
Town can provide 920,000 gallons a day. Right now, we're only putting out about 450 gallons. So we have quite a bit of water. I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
No, I've known Alan for over 30 years. And I've been on his property, which is in the rear of the landfill. 30 years ago, Alan was one of the very few people who spoke up against the landfill in Gardner. We talked about the potential problems. And we talked about the fact that you end up with a pile of landfill that would be over 6 stories high. Nobody believed them. We talked about the potential for leaching from that property. Nobody believed them. And they have had some problems with that property. Now, I know Alan, he has a budding property. So yes, it's kind of a not in my backyard on one level. But on the other level is just the way that thing got slid through 30 years ago. It's being kind of slid through now. I think it's atrocious, really atrocious that the state and the city of Gardner really didn't involve, Templeton as a budding community until quite far along into this process. And I think at a minimum, that you should have an environmental, demand and environmental impact report. It by a neutral party who is not, will just, go into all the possible environmental impacts. Because maybe it won't happen for 20 or 30 years, but something could very well happen. And you don't want to jeopardize your water supply. You don't want to have people 30 years from now saying, why didn't this board of selectmen ask for an environmental impact report? And if nothing else, you should ask for that. It doesn't cost you anything. It really doesn't cost you anything. You really should do it. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
If I can, I think we've gathered all the information. And you know, I put together a draft letter relatively pretty fast. So what I would suggest, if it's amendable to the board, is to have me work with Mr. Curry and getting the final letter as amended between the two of us for the board to sign.
Sorry.
Hey, I authored that.
Oh, did you? I didn't even know.
I was scribbling out some notes. I've been paying attention. I will add a comment. I know in some of the readings I've done, this Gardner landfill expansion had been paused about 8 years ago, and you know, it got opened back up. Now, that's outside of our direct control. But I do have some proposed language. What I would recommend, and it starts off on the draft letter we're looking at. You know, the town administrator sent a letter dated August 4th, 2022 to the Conservation Commission relative to the Gardner landfill extension. Please find attached. I would make that a page 2, but the concerns we currently have are, and then I've got some alternate language here. So, you know, again, it's a little more strongly worded. You know, I'm addressing what is the potential of a breach? What's going to happen to the wells, to the river, to the wetlands?
Who will be responsible?
And who's gonna contact us?
You know, the fact that, yes, there was an ENF went out and we as abutters to the area with a well in the area never got notified. That's a gross oversight. We can't go back and fix that. It occurred. We have to deal with it as it's in front of us right now. So I was just sitting here as people were talking. Yes, I was listening, but I was also scribbling out something real quick, and I had the vice chair look it over real fast. And I think it's pretty good to go right now. We still need to tweak it a little bit and do a little bit of wordsmithing, but that would be my recommendation. I'm absolutely in favor of notifying Kathleen authorities. I hope I said it correctly, but I think we would change the middle portion of that. You know, let's attach the August 4th letter, but let's change the wording here, and it's a little stronger.
But we want the whole board to sign it, right? So I 100% think that's a great idea. I can work with Adam. We can come up with something that I do you proud, Terry. I guarantee you I would come up with the piece de resistance.
Merci
Okay.
beaucoup.
So,
Then
but
we'll get it
we don't meet until January 11th.
Yeah.
Adam and I can get something done quick. Holly, do you think we have the capacity to like electronically sign it and have it look good?
Definitely.
So we could do that and have it done before the next meeting. So whatever motion would be that TA and I would work on the memo, and then before it's sent, that it would be electronically sent out to the board for signature. We can't deliberate, but we can sign. The
Correct.
motion would say that you can sign it, so. But you can't deliberate.
Okay. As long as we do something at this level. I'm
Agreed.
grateful.
So that's my quick and dirty, you know, this is a good framework, but
That was dirty.
Yeah,
okay.
that's-
Makes my handwriting look good.
This has been on hold for 8 years. Before it opened, where alternatives explored.
Well, I mean, that's my question. So Gail, number 4 here, it says the alternatives analysis capitalized is not adequate as it does not provide any detailed supporting data. So you send a something like this, you just can't say alternative analysis for our signature without it referencing what was the actual document. I don't remember who said it. Someone said that Gardner's already, Joanne, you said it. You said that Gardner has already had issues with the existing sludge. If you mention that, you have to be able to say on such and such a date, docket number, whatever, you know, you have to be able to reference that, because that's the credibility that Kathleen is going to look for.
Absolutely.
And she's going to be able to sniff that out. If we've done our homework and
I
we
sent
present
that-
it,
I think I sent that to Ron, and that was what he
Yeah.
sent to Muriel Stone, right? With those
Again.
pictures, right, Ron? You checked that out. So if you want those pictures, I know I've got.
that they've already failed.
the pictures of what was reported at the beginning of the year.
Who reported it?
Did you
It's,
rep-
if it's not an official, like, do you see what I'm saying? It has to be a credible, like, it's documented that they failed or that they weren't meeting the standard. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I can, my wetlands scientist that I've been working with reported it to DEP and to the city when they were doing this conservation.
Okay, so I would put complaint by that name dated whatever. Because that's a verifiable phrase of information that I can put into a letter that they say, hey, could, we'd like to follow up. Could you send us that violation? But if I don't have that, I just can't say, oh, they messed up before, right? I can't say it. Anecdotally, I mean, Joanne, you can say that in this meeting. Because it's an anecdote but when you're looking for someone to actually pay attention to the letter that you got.
Is there any way we could offer the public a letter to download and sign and send in, or to keep something that they could come into the office and sign if we put the word out?
Can I speak on that? So Ron, I think did a really great service for us tonight to say, be careful how much you do, because you're gonna open yourself up to liability. Is this private or municipal, the project?
Municipal.
Okay. I certainly don't want to start making Mayor Nicholson,
Right,
upset at me because I'm now as a municipality trying to organize a grassroots effort. We didn't tell Gavin Road residents to go get all those signatures. They did that on their own accord.
Okay.
How much do they care? What are the ones that are left that are going to the meetings that actually are, the ones that are coming to the meetings that wanted those, that's where your grassroots efforts are going to happen.
Absolutely.
You're in a tight spot. I know you are, because you're basically like when last month we said, hey, are you out there as Terry or
yeah,
select? You got to be careful because you might have the appearance of the town, acting on our behalf by getting a grassroots effort going. So I think it's great that you mention it and it puts the seed in people's mind, but we can't make
Do it.
everybody be upset.
right.
But I'll definitely work on something that will grab attention and at least be able to say, this is how we feel.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
But you're gonna need a motion for it.
And
As
Tim,
I said, this was a
Mike
quick
and-
and dirty, but it's a starting point.
Yep. But you'll need a motion, right?
We will need a motion.
I'll leave that to you, Terry.
okay. So as
Send you the Word document
That'd be great.
that I have already.
And I'll start to put something together. All right.
And I'll
Mr.
take a look
Chair,
at it.
Not gonna approve a letter.
No.
though. We're going to
I'm thinking.
direct the select board.
Right, Mr. Chair, I motion to allow the select board to improve upon the current letter written by the town administrator and to be sent out for electronic signature for the rest of the board to sign.
Still have to designate Mike to,
Oh, so designate my, so
and it'll be amend the letter.
I move to I'll allow Mr. Curry to amend the current letter to MIPA and send it out to the board for electronic signature so that it can be presented in a timely manner. Is that okay? Should I
Good.
write it down?
I think they got it. Holly, Jackie?
Second.
I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, team? Second call, any further discussion? Hearing none, we will bring this to a roll call vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes,
Ms. Griffiths.
Yes,
Mr. Curry,
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You guys send me an email. I'm gonna ask you some questions. Can you send me an email?
Yeah, I'll, if I can get the email, your email address.
Yeah, I'm right on. If you go to the website to the
Ron,
select
I
board.
just want to say thanks again for coming
Because
tonight.
when you do use that, it automatically shows me your email address and all I have to do is hit reply, but I might have some questions.
I'll do that.
And I'll get
Want
you.
me to go
those.
get him a card?
Thank you.
And then once you get it to us.
Congratulations again, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. Congrats.
Ron, thank you very much. There's an old military joke that I will throw your way, you know. Your retirement action is disapproved, resubmit in 90 days for additional disapprovals. Seriously, though, thank you for all that you have done for the town, and thank you for the comments tonight and the input. Joanne, if you could just email Mike and I'll let you guys cross talk on it. Yeah, it's the same process I used for the capital improvements that actually worked out. It works very well. The other alternative would be phone number. Yeah, I really don't want to have. Instead of hour. That's what happens when you're talking at high level. Good night.
I don't think that she would pay attention to something like that, where your letter going to Gardner was totally.
The challenges of copying or pasting.
Yeah, I thought that was Ron.
Yep, for storage.
We're in the doghouse with Jackie Prom. You're gonna have to read the email.
Uh-oh.
Don't throw things at her. Just calmly read her email.
Okay.
Okay. You mean capital or?
No, just, I don't want to talk about it. Just-
That's okay.
What's today?
Okay, team.
This is yours or mine?
At this point, I'm going to entertain board member and administrator comments and reports before we go into our executive session. That will be a roll call vote to enter the executive session.
I just have one comment question. If you go on the town's website, the meeting calendar, and you look under agendas, and I will go off the select board's agenda, down at the bottom, it states meeting minutes are not on record with the town clerk. And I think are not is in red. If you go on the town's website, you look like, if you look at our agenda tonight, 28th, you click on it, you go down to the bottom and it says meeting minutes are not on record with the town clerk. So on page 7 of the select board policies and procedures, it says minutes of the meeting. Upon approval, they shall be so watermarked and posted upon the town's website, signed by the clerk, the select board's clerk, and kept in the town clerk's office. So I just want to know if the calendar is saying they're not on file, but our policy says they are kept there. Are we once again going to follow our policies and procedures?
As far as I know, when they get uploaded, they're uploaded on the web page when the board approves them, and I'm pretty sure they're forwarded to Carol.
Yes, they're brought into the town clerk. So I think what Jeff's talking about is so on like today's meeting.
Yep.
Says
At the
minutes are
bottom.
not on record with the town clerk.
Yep.
Right, so what that's saying is the minutes for that particular meeting aren't. As soon as we put them on My Town Government, that'll be updated on that meeting.
But are they on all our minutes? If I go into town clerk's office right now, is there a book in there where I can look at minutes from the past year?
Yes,
They are on file.
Yep.
Well, it says it on the website, they're not on file.
Right, but it's referring to that particular meeting.
Right. And
So
that's
what-
every meeting agenda that you can go back and look at, 21, 22. It says they are not on record.
Hmm.
That, to me, that indicates the minutes are not there, but our policy says they will go there. Just, why do we put that there
I think it's automated from my town government, maybe.
Yes, it is.
if our minutes are on file, then why would the agenda say they are not?
Because
I think that's an
tonight,
automated message, though.
tonight, we're having a meeting. The minutes need to still be
Mm.
prepared. They're not
Oh,
on
he's right.
file.
Wednesday, November 9th. Still says it.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know how you
It's
fix it.
not uncorrecting itself.
That's a my town government thing. There, it's a
So it's that.
free website that the town clerk uses to bring everything into the town website. And there's some little,
We could look into
on it
it.
like
Yep.
that.
further.
What, just do that.
Yeah, we'll look into
My
it. further.
other question would be, what is the status of the Stone Bridge project? Because there is 90,000 or so dollars on the books from CPC.
Mhm.
It's been there for a number of years. And
The status right now is, Chair and I spoke about this, and quite frankly, way back when they were discussing doing a recreational walking bridge, if you will. Quite frankly, town meeting never discontinued that technically. So we're looking at how we're gonna approach it to town meeting. And quite frankly, the board might have to relook their options on that. Because if town meeting did not discontinue that portion, technically it's still, as you know, with town roads. Once town meeting accepts that road, until it's discontinued, it's still a town road. So that's the
because that
that's the
came
hurdle we're
about-
dealing
Yeah,
with.
this all came about when we had a flood down there and everybody thought the bridge was gonna, fall in, and we were gonna rebuild it, and we went through the DOT. And so it had, if you rebuild it, it has to be to current road standards, but I think the board voted to make it like a recreation and close the road and do this and that.
But that would,
Footpath.
we're thinking, the chair and I discussed this, is we're thinking that would have to go to town meeting to ultimately decide. I believe it's not within the authority of the select board to do that. I think that has to go to town meeting.
I'm of the same belief. This has got to go to the town floor.
I know discontinue roads
Mhm.
have.
Or
to
that
do it,
portion of,
But just to block off that road, I don't know. But I just wanted to know,
That's
that's
just-
a chunk of money been sitting on there for a number of years. And, there's a lot of money sitting on the books
Mhm.
for things for 2019, 17, and I just wanted to know if we plan to go forward with that.
has not been forgotten. It's just we're trying to figure out the technical end of it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for stepping up. Coming alongside me with the sludge landfill situation, and I hope everybody has a safe and prosperous new year. Happy New Year.
Thanks. You as well.
I had something, I didn't write it down and I've forgotten it.
Dang.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Right around the corner.
That's what I do if I don't write it down.
I know, you should see me in the grocery store.
What did I come in here for?
I know,
Oh, well.
so I'm all set.
Jackie, any comments?
no, happy in here.
Same to you, Holly?
I do actually. It's sort of in response to what Jeff asked about. I just realized why it says the minutes are not on record with the town clerk's office. When we got my town government, the select board voted that the town website is the official spot for all minutes to be. And that's why it has that disclaimer that minutes are not on record with the town clerk's office. That's for all boards and committees. We do, as the select board office, put our minutes in there in a notebook. I don't know that other boards and committees do.
Thank you.
So
for
it's
that.
just an anomaly for the select board? Like that was standard for everyone, but the select board, it's actually a false statement.
Well, it probably should say official minutes are not on record with the town clerk's office because the official minutes are on the website. That's where their official spot is. We actually, according to what the board voted, don't have to put them in the town clerk's office. But we do. That's where we put our originals.
But that would be at odds for what Jeff said. Jeff says policy, and then you're saying there was a select board
It's select board policy
that they get put into the clerk's
for the
office.
select board only.
It just sounds like we just have to update that note if it's updatable. It's a form, right?
I don't
It's
know,
just
if Carol runs that
Yep.
site. I'd have to talk to her. but-
Yeah, let's just figure it out.
Investigated on the My Town Government side.
It's low hanging fruit.
It is. Yeah. In closing,
Did he ask you? Oh,
Yeah, I already said Happy New Year.
it, absolutely.
I thought you were covering for me.
It's been an amazing year. We've done a lot of wonderful things. And we still have a whole bunch more work. You know, the job isn't done yet by any stretch of the imagination, but this first half of the year serving as chair, it's very, very encouraging. The team is working so strongly together, good synergy. Yes, we have some serious adult level discussions, but very proud to be leading the team. Thank you all for that. One quick update on our veteran who was struck by the vehicle about 3 weeks ago. He still has a long road to recovery, and I'm not speaking out of turn. This has been released publicly. He is off the ventilator at the hospital. He is off the pain meds. He's eating again. We're getting updates from the family on a weekly basis, and sometimes even more than that. The pouring and out support from the community have been phenomenal. The Dunkin' Donuts in Baldwinville, the Turtle, the Legion, there are some other places they are collecting funds for him to help defray the expenses. It's going to be a while before we see him go home, but he's a fighter, and I'm sure even though it's a long road to hoe, he's going to get us where we need to be, and we're all pulling for him.
I appreciate that.
So that's all that I have. So I will entertain a motion that we
I'm gonna go for it.
enter an executive session and for the purposes of discussing a strategy session for contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And we will only be coming out of executive session to close the meeting. There will be no further votes taken and no further deliberations.
So moved.
Second,
This does require a roll call vote since it is an executive session. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Ms. Griffis.
Yes.
Mr. Curry.